Scott Drew is not leaving Baylor. He was never leaving Baylor. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Nissan. I am your host, Cam Stewart from ESPN Central Texas. We have got so much to go over today. We are in Memphis, and by that I mean I am in Memphis, Tennessee. So I apologize for the not having my regular Baylor-clad studio. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. Of course, the big news this week, which we all knew was coming, Scott Drew is staying at Baylor. And he didn't explicitly say that, but he is. I mean, come on. Football team making big moves. And by that, I mean honoring the 2013 and 2014 Big 12 champs. About time. Can't wait to talk about that. And then, I mean, also, we've got basketball today. Baylor Colgate men at 11:40. And then the women taking on Vanderbilt at 5 p.m. So we are into the madness. I know there's only a few hours of when this premieres between this premiering and the start of the men's game. So we'll get right into the big story, and that is Scott Drew. Scott Drew announced on Wednesday, announced is the wrong word. Scott Drew went on the Matt Mosley Show Wednesday on ESPN Central Texas, hosted by Matt Mosley, as well as myself from 3 to 6. If you guys are interested, a lot of Baylor talk. And it was just your kind of run-of-the-mill, hey, you know, how are we getting ready for the tournament? What's the deal with Langston? All of that great stuff. And at the end, Matt Mosley says, you know, there's been rumors out there that Louisville had made you an offer. They had made you their top target. And it sounds like that's kind of going by the wayside. And Scott Drew said, you know, all I'm focused on right now is my team. And Baylor is my home. It is where I want to be. It is my family's home. It's been our home for a long time. I want to be at Baylor. Bang. He was never going to Louisville. It was never going to happen. And as much as I want to just dunk the basketball on Louisville for kind of being delusional about where their program is at right now, it wouldn't have been anywhere. Like he wasn't leaving for the LA Lakers at this point. Like that's just not happening. He didn't leave for Indiana. He didn't leave for Duke, which he almost certainly got that call. And the only time he was close to leaving was 15, 16 years ago. And that was the school right down the street, Memphis, before they hired Josh Pastner. That was the only time that it was even close, and that was so long ago. Now, I'll give the Louisville people this, because I know this is what they're harping on. Scott Drew's answer was not, I'm not going to Louisville. How stupid can you be? Was it a no? I guess technically not, but there are certainly other things he could have said to, you know, kind of leave the door open, and he didn't. He said, I want to be at Baylor. Baylor's my home. And I mean, come on, man, he's been here for 20 years. He's raised his kids here. His daughter literally goes to Baylor. He has built this thing from the worst position you could be in men's college basketball to the absolute zenith, the national championship. He continues to put guys in the NBA. He's winning conference championships. He is running the most successful program, or at worst, second most successful program in the last 5 years. They just built this brand new gorgeous arena that he had all the elbow grease put into. And you think he was going to leave for a team that's winning single digit games because they won a couple national championships in the 80s? Come on, guys. And I've avoided talking about this topic because in my mind, it was so insane. It was so stupid. It was never going to happen. And now that Scott has basically said, yeah, that is a bunch of baloney, then here we are. Like, it just needs to be said, because there are still people out there, Louisville people, who thought they had a chance at this. And I'm not saying that it was stupid to make him your top choice. I would have made him my top choice if I'm any other program. But to think that you're in this position to take Scott Drew, one of the best coaches in the country, from one of the best programs in the country, is insane. Does Louisville have the upper hand on basketball history to Baylor? Sure. Anyone would be silly to argue against that. But we're not talking about 1986. We're talking about the year 2024 when you wanted to hire him. And I mean, you've been in the doldrums of the ACC. Not even. You have been on the bottom. It's the doldrums. It's 50 feet of crap. And then there's you guys at the bottom of the ACC. I have nothing against Louisville. I hope they can bounce back, but they're not doing it with Scott Drew. Like, let's keep our realistic expectations. Want to talk about Dusty May at FAU? Fine. That's probably more your speed. Because Louisville is probably, even now, an easier place to win consistently than FAU is. It is not, right now, an easier place to win consistently than Baylor is. It's not. Baylor is, at worst, the second best program in college basketball the last 5 years. And Louisville somewhere in the 300s the last 5 years. I get it, man. Pitino and Derek Smith and all those guys and Luke Hancock, that was great. 10 years ago, that was great. But you're not that program anymore. You're not that program right now. And I get it. You can fit 18,000 into the KFC Yum Center. Great. Where has that gotten you? Because to be honest, this program has not nearly been the same since Pitino was run out of town. And in fact, the last couple years, it's been as bad as it has ever been. And you think Scott Drew's leaving for that? Come on, man. Have another, because you're daydreaming at this point. Like, genuinely, I know it's different from the athletic department, but you as fans, shift your focus elsewhere. Don't get your hopes up on that. Dusty May, sure. Fine. Go for it. Want to take Bob Huggins out of retirement? Forced retirement? Go ahead. But it's not going to be Scott Drew. And I'm genuine in that I don't know that there's a job right now that Scott Drew is taking. And that's not to say there aren't better jobs, but like, let's lay this out. He grew up in Indiana. Okay. Obviously, Homer, his dad, was at Valpo for decades, and he goes to Butler. He is Indiana through and through. And the University of Indiana wanted him as their coach. He did not want to go. Like, that's such a good comp of, a once proud program really down on its luck right now. If they can't get him, you can't get him. Like that all the mystique that you're talking about at Louisville and the fan base and the support and the stadium and the resources and of course the mystique, all of that Indiana has. And they have the upper advantage that he is from there. He is a Hoosier. Literally, he is from that state. So Indiana has the ultimate upper hand on you, Louisville, and he said no to them. Scott Drew's going to be here forever. At this point, he's not leaving Baylor. Okay, maybe if the Boston Celtics call, because that's God's gift to the game of basketball. But he is not leaving Baylor. I'm sorry, and in a lot of ways, I'm really not sorry. Well, now I'm here to talk to you about something a little more serious. This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, and that's Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below the waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use the code locked on for 20% off plus free shipping. So we're looking for the NCAA tournament champs. We've already got the season's champ. That is that Lawnmower 5.0. The 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next gen skin safe blade heads. You got the standard one for just taking a little bit off the top, and you got the new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also features LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris so you can navigate with confidence in those delicate areas. And I know you probably hate making a mess. Well, not to worry. This bad boy's waterproof. You can shave in the shower, in the bath, in the ocean if you want to. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code locked on at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code locked on at manscaped.com. And let me tell you, there is nothing like a little spring cleaning down there in your pants. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. I know y'all are looking for those tickets down here in Memphis to come hang out with me and to see your Baylor Bears in the NCAA tournament. Well, I'm telling you, the only way to do it is through Game Time. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets. That's why Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all your sporting events, but also things like music, comedy, theater events, anything that you can buy a ticket for. Game Time's got you covered. And they're best for last minute tickets. They've got those flash deals going on throughout the week. It is the perfect way to buy. And honestly, the convenient way for me is just the fact that you can see your view from your seats. You're not having all those hidden fees. You're having all this information in front of you before you buy and you hit purchase on that. And with Game Time Guarantee, that means you'll always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time's going to credit you with 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code locked on for $20 off the first purchase. Terms do apply. Now, again, create an account, redeem the code locked on, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, and that, of course, is guaranteed. And another big announcement coming out this week was from Baylor football. There was the tough day, first day of practice, spring practice, where 2 nose tackles go down or are announced to have career-ending injuries. And that stinks, man. That's not what you want to hear the first day of practice. You want with this new coaching staff to be excited. And while there are some exciting parts about this spring football that we'll talk about as it progresses, they also, Baylor football, made an announcement that excited just about every Baylor fan. And that is on November 2nd, before the game against TCU, Baylor will honor the 2013 and 2014 Big 12 championship teams before the game. Round of applause. Round of applause, man. This is overdue. I kind of got on them last year for not honoring the 10th anniversary of the 2013 team. Mac Rhodes came out kind of after the fact that, they were waiting on ongoing cases to get sewed up and kind of the justice system to prevail a little bit. And honestly, the more I thought about that, I was like, okay, I get that. I still think it wouldn't have been crazy for them to honor the 2013 team. I don't think they would have got a ton of backlash for that because there were open cases, but overall, that's fine. And I'm glad Mac came out and said that. I wish he would have said that as the backlash was happening instead of kind of after the fact, but I'm okay with that answer. And now they are doubling down and bringing both those teams out there, the back-to-back Big 12 champions up in November of 2024 for the 10th anniversary of the 2014 team. And whatever you think about that era of Baylor football, this deserves to happen. Because if we're breaking it down, we're not celebrating what happened off the field. We're not celebrating the head coach. We're not celebrating the old AD. We're not celebrating the old president. We're not celebrating how they handled Title IX. We're not doing that. We're celebrating the guys out there on the field who obviously led the greatest stretch in Baylor football history. This school's been playing varsity football for 125 years now, and these are two of the best teams to ever do it. Two of the top 4 or 5. You could make an argument for the top 2. And, an overwhelming amount, 99.5% of these guys had nothing to do with the scandal that brought the program down. These guys were out there playing great football and being great ambassadors for Baylor. And I know for those of you who were there and in Waco and at Baylor while this team was doing its thing, it's got to be the proudest you could ever be to be a Baylor football fan. Like, obviously the offenses were incredible. I think in 14 they averaged 52 points a game, which is incredible. But they did it with flair. They had the great uniforms. They were cocky, but not too cocky. And it was finally a time where you could really puff your chest out to be a Baylor fan. I know you had the buildup of RG3 winning the Heisman. That's great. And, women's basketball success, absolutely. But now you're looking at the sport everyone cares about the most. And you're no longer the doormat. We were gone from that. You're no longer meddling in the middle of the pack. You're the top dogs in this conference. In the conference with Texas and OU, Baylor was the team to beat. And these teams hold special in my heart because I was not a Baylor fan growing up. And 2013 was my junior year of high school. So I was starting to look at colleges, and Baylor, I was just starting to fall in love with. And honestly, seeing those teams in 13 and 14, if you don't think that had an influence on me or I'm sure thousands of other students to come to Baylor, you're so wrong. Because I got to see all the great things about Baylor, the great education, the great people, the beautiful campus, the Christian mission, all of that great, the community that is so embracing. But I would have never saw that if they were 5-7 in 2013. I got introduced to Baylor because of RG3 and because of the success that came after that in 13 and 14. That's what got me in the door. Everything else kept me here 10 years later. So for me, they have a very special place in my heart. And talking to some of the football players that were on those teams, one of them we talked to was Jay Lee back a couple months ago in the infancy of my time running this show. And he said this, and I've heard it from several other players, that they just didn't feel welcome coming back to Baylor and that they felt they were erased from history. And that hit hard, man, because these guys, they made history here. Like they are the ambassadors of the best football teams ever to play here and a humongous source of pride for the university, for its students, for its alumni, and for its community in Waco. And again, no one is saying that we can just, forget the things that happened off the field. But I'm telling you, if you're there on November 2nd, all those guys that are out there on the field that are being honored did not have anything to do with that. I can guarantee you that, or else they wouldn't be invited back. And it feels really good that these guys are going to feel like they're welcomed back. And of course, there is the funny part to this, that they're doing it in a game against TCU, right? Beat TCU both of those years, 41-38, and then more famously 61-58, arguably the greatest regular season game in the history of Baylor football. And the coach for TCU in those 2 years and a guy who absolutely put more fuel to the fire as an outsider to that Baylor run in the 2010s. Like, nobody had more of a part from outside of the program than Gary Patterson. And now he is on the Baylor sideline wearing Baylor colors. That feels fantastic. Because we're not beating TCU on the field much these days, but to have that kind of one up on them feels good. I can't lie. So kudos to Baylor and Baylor football for finally getting this done. This is going to be a great day. I think if I have my math right, that's 225 days from now. But who's counting, right? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, champs. It's long overdue. Well, today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. And guys, you know the deal by now. Each week, we are taking our bracket highlight brought to you by Nissan, and we are picking one team that stands out, a team that has pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. And I can't look any further than the Oregon Ducks. I'm comparing them to this week's Nissan Rogue. This team shocked the nation by winning the Pac-12 tournament. They were not going to get in to the NCAAs, but they go on this magical run. They win the Pac-12, and they're not just in the dance just to say they were there, because yesterday they knocked off South Carolina in that 11-6 matchup, and they are continuing to dance. They talk about winning life. That's what we do at Nissan Rogue, and that's what the Oregon Ducks have done so far. So kudos to you guys. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. And the way to do that is to go to shopnissanusa.com. Well, it is a big day, bearing the lead here. Both the men's and women's basketball team enter the NCAA tournament today. And the men at 11:40 against Colgate, 3:14 matchup. And then the dreaded 5:12 matchup in the women's side as Baylor hosts kind of Vanderbilt in Blacksburg, Virginia at that West Virginia Virginia Tech regional. Quick notes on the women. I like this matchup with Vanderbilt a little bit better than I like the Columbia one. Columbia's just won so many games this year that they wouldn't have come in like afraid of the moment. Vanderbilt kind of in the middle of the road in the SEC, still a team that can knock off Baylor, but I don't think it's going to happen today. I think this rest actually helps the Lady Bears quite a bit in terms of finding their form, literally their shot form, and getting back. I talked about that earlier this week. Nikki Collins said she liked the rest because of that, and I'm going to buy into this because when they're shooting hot, they are a dangerous team. It's not the end all be all for them. It's kind of like the men's team. It's not the end all be all for them, but when they're shooting hot, they are really, really tough to beat. So I'm rolling with Nikki Collins' team in this one to go to round 2 and probably face Virginia Tech if they go on to win. And Virginia Tech is officially without Elizabeth Kitley, who is their stud guard. She is out for the tournament. So advantage Baylor in some respects. And looking at the men's game, obviously the 3-seeded Baylor versus 14-seed Colgate. We talked a lot about Colgate yesterday, but I did so much research on their KenPom stuff that I need to put this out there because I just did too much time on it to not mention it on the show. So they are a dangerous team in that they've won the Patriot League 4 years in a row. Like I talked about, they're not afraid of the moment. They have not won that NCAA tournament game yet. So you'll be thinking they're due. And then I looked into Colgate's numbers, KenPom specifically. They did not face the same level of competition that Baylor did. They just didn't. Baylor has the number 1 strength of schedule in KenPom. They're number 6 in adjusted offense, 64th in adjusted defense. And I look at Colgate, and their strength of schedule is poor, as a matter of fact. Very poor. It's number 340, and there's only about a 350 team. I think 345, as a matter of fact, in strength of schedule. They are behind in the strength of schedule category. They are behind 12 teams that have the same seed or a lower seed than them. That is incredible. 12. In fact, number 15, Long Beach State, which lost to Arizona yesterday, a 15 seed, not a 14, a 15. Their strength of schedule was 162 before that Arizona game. Again, Colgate, 340. Number 104 in adjusted defense, number 211 in adjusted offense. That in and of itself sounds bad, right? Number 211 in adjusted offense. How about this? They're behind Vanderbilt. They're behind Louisville, who I trashed earlier in the show for good reason. And 211th is 18 spots behind the University of Virginia. So when you take the teams they're playing and their efficiency numbers, they are much worse than a team that very much looked like the worst offensive team in this tournament. A team that had no business being in the big dance, the Virginia Cavaliers. They have played a couple of quad one games this year. Colgate, that is. They're 0-2. Lost to Arizona, lost to Illinois. They're 1-3 in quad two. They're 23-4 in quads 3 and 4. So 24 of their 34 games were in quad 4. But you look at the numbers in the Patriot League, they dominate. Number 2 in scoring offense, number 1 in scoring defense, first in the league in margin of victory by 7 whole points. So that's a considerable gap. They're number 1 in 3-point shooting, 36%. That's fine. Number 1 in opponent 3-point percentage, allowing just about 30%. So that's something I look at as a Baylor fan, again, because if Baylor doesn't get going on threes, they find it really tough to win. But then again, the teams shooting threes in the Patriot League are not like Baylor. Baylor shoots 36% from the floor or from three in those games. And one other thing is interesting to me, and I don't know exactly what to make of this. Colgate is first in the conference in defensive rebounds and last in offensive rebounds. Something that Baylor hangs its hat on. They will need to be an even better rebounding team to make a deep run in this tournament. And I'm hoping, against all hope, that is the break that Baylor will need if they need one. But we talked about it with Tommy Sladek yesterday. Keegan Records is a heck of a player down there at the forward position. In fact, he was the preseason Patriot League Player of the Year, and their point guard, Braden Smith, who I think is the puppet master there, he ended up winning Patriot League Player of the Year. So in the minds of the coaches in that conference, they had the best player in the conference coming into the season, and they had the best player in the conference during the season, and they're two different guys. I think the ladies win. I think the men win as well. Shocker. I do. I think Colgate might put up a fight in this one for a while, but I think Baylor's athleticism and 3-point shooting, hopefully, is what's going to carry them over the top. I think Baylor pulls away in the second half. I think they win this one by, I'll stick with my prediction from yesterday, 14, 82-68 is, I think, going to be the final score. But in reality, after looking over those numbers again, I think they could win this game by 23 points. So anyway, we'll have all the coverage for that. We're going to have a delayed post game because I will be live on the Matt Mosley show after almost directly after the game. We'll go on at 3. The game will probably end at 2. So tune in there and then tune in here. We'll be right here on YouTube doing a live post game, and you'll be able to hear it wherever you get your podcasts as well. So be sure to get involved down in the comment section below. What do you think about this game today? Both of them, actually. Let me know your predictions down in the comments. Let me know what you think about Louisville fans. Say a prayer for them, man. Some of them really thought they had something here. A lot of them probably didn't, but some of them really did. And about honoring the 2013 and 14 Big 12 champion football teams, probably long overdue. Put that down in the comments below how you feel about that. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. I got a little nostalgic yesterday as you're listening to this because it was the 10-year anniversary, 10 years to the day that high school junior Cam Stewart went to job shadow at his favorite radio station in Boston. And 10 years later, he picked up his credential to cover his first NCAA tournament. So it actually was really bittersweet. There was a lot of times in that decade in between that I did not think I would be doing this, didn't think I would be talking about sports, didn't think I'd be working in sports at all. And one of the reasons I still am is for those of you who are watching and following along every single day. And I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Like, truly, you guys are what's keeping me going and keeping me in this business. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I really appreciate you guys. And I'm hoping I will, not that I take you guys for granted, but thank you guys more often because it truly is. It's so much fun. And I hope this fun will continue throughout the month of March. There we go. So be sure to tune in tomorrow, post game, after Baylor beats Colgate. Right? Right. We'll be back tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.